welcome candidates. If I can just ask everyone if they can mute their camera or their phone. Welcome candidates and members of our community who are joining us online to our virtual Meet the Candidates Forum. This is an opportunity for voters to get to know you candidates before the election. My name is Liza Rodriguez, Communication and Marketing Officer. I'd like to start by asking each candidate to introduce yourselves and tell the community a little bit about you. You'll have 30 seconds to introduce yourself. And we'll start in alphabetical order, and we can start with Ms. Annette Brigham.
Good evening, Canutillo. My name is Annette Brigham. I have been associated with Canutillo ISD for about 34 years. I worked as a high school teacher, principal at elementary and middle school, and retired as associate soup in 2016. I chose many years ago to live in Canutillo. I'll always vote on matters to enhance your students and staff and community. I understand education, it's my life's work, and I will continue to work hard for you and be open to all stakeholders. I will serve Canutillo with integrity and honesty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brigham. Next, Mr. Sergio Coronado. Oh, Mr. Coronado, you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, Canutillo District community members and students in particular. My name is Sergio Coronado. I've been long life, pretty much almost all my life lived in Canutillo since 1969. I graduated from here, went on to UTEP and UT Austin, got my law degree. And I've been serving on this school board since 2002. Took a little break back in 2004. And I came back again a couple of years ago. And we've certainly had some issues in this district, but we're moving forward. And I see nothing but a great future for this district and for economic and educational opportunities for our students. And thank you to our administration, staff, and teachers for that.
Thank you, Mr. Coronado. Next is Mr. Alfonso or L. Flores.
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening. My name is Al Flores Jr. I'm a civil engineering graduate from Stanford, and I'm currently the managing director of facilities and services at Texas Tech Health Sciences Center here in El Paso, Texas. I am a native of the Upper Valley, growing up in La Union, but my mom's parents and family grew up in the Canutillo area, so I'm very familiar with the area and still do a lot in the area, volunteer in different areas. That was quick, 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Next is Mr. Raymond Medlock.
Good evening. Forgive me, I have a little bit of laryngitis. My name is Raymond Medlock. I've been married to Linda Medlock for the past 42 years. We have 4 children, 4 grandchildren, and just noteworthy, everyone needs to know that my daughter teaches in the Canutillo Independent School District, and we're proud of that. I'm here to represent the students, the teachers, and all the staff. It's about them, it's not about me. I am a lifelong resident of El Paso. I graduated from Austin High School in 1974. So we'll go on from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Patricia or Patsy Mendoza. You're muted, Ms. Mendoza. There you go.
Good evening. Thank you. My name's Patsy Mendoza, and I am a lifelong resident of Canutillo. I retired after 33 years of service to the school district. I've worked with many of the people on the school board now, I'm proud to say, and I think Canutillo's moving up, and I look forward to a lot more of the educational successes that our students have experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. And next is Armando Rodriguez.
Good evening, Canotio community. Thank you for listening to us this evening. We really appreciate this as this is a critical time in our district of moving forward. I was a graduate of Canotio in 2002. My mom was a graduate in 1970. So our tradition in Canotio and our beliefs in the educational system has always been there and will continue to be there. Currently, I am serving 15 years on the Canotio School Board. After graduating from Canotio, I did go to UTEP to get a degree in international business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. And I'm sorry, once you hear that, you have, about 10 seconds to wrap up. I know it sounds a little harsh. Next is Ms. Blanca Trout.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to your community. Hello, I'm Blanca Trout, and I'm a Mexican-American person serving and living in this community. I serve as a board member for this district, and I'm running for re-election. I have two beautiful daughters, one in the military and one in high school. I am a military wife and a mother. My husband served 32 years in the Army as a Sergeant Major Special Forces, and my oldest daughter is currently serving at the Air Force as a medic pilot. I'm also a parent of a student that attends Northwest Early College High School. I have an associate's degree in business. I'm nationally certified in mental health for NAMI. I was chosen by Texas partners and policymakers as a disability advocate to represent El Paso. I'm also a chairwoman of the International Boundary Water Commission, and I hope this lets you know a little bit more about me. And hablamos español. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trout.
Yes.
And last for our introductions is Ms. Amber Whitley.
Good evening, Canotio community. My name is Amber Whitley. I was born and raised in El Paso, and my husband and I chose to move to the Canotio district. My daughter was in the graduating class of 2020 from Natchez, and I have a son at CMS and JDE. I have been an active volunteer parent in our district for the last 9 years. I served as a president on the PTO, and have also served on several of our committees, such as CIC, PAC, and PLC. If elected, I want to make sure that our children's voices are heard, that our parents, teachers, and faculty and our taxpayers of our community. I want to make sure our tax dollars are being spent wisely and that we continue to help our district grow. I also want to make sure that we help, I also want to help our students, which is our future, become the best and strongest generation to come. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for those introductions. And thank you all for your time and wanting to serve the school district and the Canotio community. We're excited. So now let's get started. I'm just going to go over the format and then we'll get into our questions. So we invited the community to submit questions. And in the interest of time, we've narrowed down and consolidated some of the questions that cover a broad range of topics. First question will be asked in alphabetical order, just the way we did the introductions. Second question will be the second person in alphabetical order. So Mr. Sergio Coronado would go first when it's question number 2, and so on. So everyone gets to go first one time. Each candidate has 1 minute to answer the question. We'll do it the same way we did. You'll hear that little buzzer, and we ask if you can wrap it up within 10 seconds. There's a total of 8 questions. So if no one has any questions, we can go ahead and get started. Everyone is good? Okay, and the questions will be displayed, and I can always repeat them again because I know there's 8 candidates. So if you would like me to repeat the question, just let me know. Okay, good luck everyone, and we will get started with first question for Ms. Annette Brigham. What is your experience with public education? How will your own experience influence your work as a board member?
Well, as I said in my introduction, education is my life's work. I started in Canotio ISD in 1987, and I was a high school teacher. I've had many roles in Canotio ISD because it's a great district and it provides opportunity for growth. I was an elementary principal at Bill Childress for 7 years. I then went to AMS for 3 years. and I retired as associate superintendent in 2016. I am an educator. I look at the current trends. We took Bill Childress Elementary School, which was the lowest performing school, and made it to a very competitive school. And my philosophy was that school should be the best place that kids go to. And I think that being a board member, we can help give the resources to all the kids and the teachers and the staff in those schools, because it's a very difficult job and it changes every day. And we want the kids to come to school and feel safe and welcome and be well fed. They can't learn if they don't feel safe in an environment. And being an educator and working with the school board, a lot of people in the school board have had excellent, I've learned just as much from people in the school board as I have from teachers in the community. So I do think being an educator has definitely, as far as curriculum and budgeting, has given me the ability to be a good school board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brigham. Mr. Sergio Coronado, what is your own experience with public education, and how will your own experience influence your work as a board member? I'm sorry, you're muted, Mr. Coronado.
Sorry about that. I
Sorry.
keep forgetting to unmute myself, but you know,
That's
my
okay.
experience
We
with
all do
public
that.
education. Thank you. But my experience with publication goes really way back to my college training. But I've been serving on the school board since 2002. Like I said, I took a break for 4 years. So I've been serving on the school board since 2002. And that really has brought me a lot of experience with respect to how this agency works. It's one of the most regulated parts of the government. And I actually also took educational policy and law in law school. I actually took the class from Dean Yura, who's one of the plaintiff attorneys in the education case of San Antonio, Edgewood versus San Antonio, which brought us equity and funding for the entire state. But really, as a student, not just in the district, I've been able to see a lot of the issues that our district has gone through. And I think I'm, in a position where I'm able to help, not just with respect to their students, but our teachers, our administration. And I think my law career and the experience that I've had on the board really gives me a unique perspective in being able to see the issues that confront public education. And so I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Coronado. Mr. Flores?
I have been in the education area realm with the facilities and services for the past about 16, 17 years. What we look at is I understand what the educators need in the classrooms, what the students need in the classrooms, because that's our priority, to make sure that the facilities are ready for them and that they're clean, they have the comfort levels and everything that they require to provide a good education. I understand the purchasing laws. I understand what it takes to construct in a public system, how to work with bonds, maintenance and cleaning, and bringing that knowledge and education to the school board will be beneficial. I've served on the CBAC committee for the Canutillo ISD school district for about 4 years when we passed the second bond. And I have an understanding of what the needs are across the campus. I've been actively involved in the activities of the school board and attended board meetings when I can to be able to see what's going on and what's this current board doing to support the administration. And that's the key. The board is here to support the administration and set the policies and for the school district. And but ultimately, that education of understanding from what it takes to put together a classroom setting environment for the educators is critical.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Next, Mr. Raymond Medlock. I'll ask the question. What is your own experience with public education, and how will your own experience influence your work as a board member?
So as far as having any public education experience other than my own schooling, I do not have any. I do have a lot of experience with teaching apprentices. I've had 18 apprentices at one time. And with what I do, if I don't do my job, they don't go home. So what I do is very important. I've taught in our church groups for years and years and years. So I have a lot of educational experience teaching. I'm also on the SWEMA, which is Southwestern Metermen's Electrical Association. We have a school every year at Texas A&M, and I teach down there every year as well. So I don't have any experience with public education, but I do have life experience with teaching people. I'm here to be a support vessel to the students, the staff, the teachers. Everybody's important. I don't look at it as just the students, but I want to be there for the staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Medlock. Ms. Mendoza. Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Liza.
Just so you know, we can't see you. I don't know if you want to turn on your camera.
Liza. There? Okay.
We still can't, we could hear you, but we can't see you.
So I am very well versed in what a school board does, can do, and cannot do. They set policy, they support the administration, they hire and fire the superintendent. Are you there, Liza?
Yes, we're here. We can now see you and hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
As I said before, I worked for Canutillo for 33 years, and my job at Canutillo was very unique in that I was the administrative secretary to the school board and the superintendent. So I'm very well versed in the duties of a school board and of a superintendent. And I agree with Mr. Flores. It's vital that the board support the superintendent and administration in fulfilling the educational needs of our student. A school board is to set policy, to adopt a budget, to set the tax rate, and hire and fire the superintendent, plus evaluate him. Those are the duties of a school board. And, you know I've served on the school board before. I don't have a degree from any university, but I was there for 33 years, and I know exactly how the schools are run and how much work Dr. Galaviz and his administration have put forward to bring such wonderful accolades, such as the Blue Ribbon School and the Premier School District. Those are wonderful achievements that we should all be proud of.
Thank you.
I look for your support at this election. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
So in regards to the question, what is your own experience or my own experience with public education? I've gone through the public educational system through Canutillo and then went to UTEP. And during my time at UTEP, I was able to run for the board. And so I pretty much have given my whole entire adult life to public education, and soon it would be my whole life. So I understand the role of a board member, the governance part of it, And my business background also brings different expertise in regards to that. Our goal is to set the expectations of what and not the how. We need to set the expectations and the goals. And as you can see, over the years, Canutio has continued to see success and growth because of those expectations that we have set through the years. And our goal is not to micromanage the superintendent or tell him how to do his job. And that's something critical. So being able to understand your role as a board member, as well as the role as a superintendent, and being able to develop that teamwork that's going to be able to focus on doing what's right for kids and making sure we're looking at student outcomes and being able to attain high educational outcomes for all our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Next for the question is Ms. Blanca Trout.
Thank you. Well, education is one of my top priorities, definitely. And to be sure that our students and our teachers, they have the powerful tools that they need in order for them to provide a good and quality education. Of course, with the good teachers and good support to our teachers, we're going to have a great student outcomes. So definitely as a role of board of trustee, I do understand that we need to work aligned with our school district as well, but also set up our goals. And our goals are going to be based in our student education. We need to supervise, overview, and be vigilant that those programs are working. It definitely is our responsibility. And we are the ones that we really set the goals and definitely work hand by hand with the superintendent. I'm totally agree with this. And also just to let you know that, of course, that I am serving as a delegate. And one of my work was to submit our priorities in education, the ones that we're going to vote in this weekend, Friday and Saturday. The ones are based in our student outcomes and the privilege of our education for students. So definitely I'm moving forward. I'm working so hard for students, for our community. And of course, we need to be transparent for the community. We need to be transparent with our teachers and definitely a big support of our staff and our teachers. Thank you, community, and just Bailey, and I would like to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trout. And Ms. Whitley.
Well, my experience with public education is I have attended EPCC and I received an associate's, but I also deal with the school on a daily basis. As you know, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I have children currently enrolled in our schools. I am very active volunteer, so I have worked closely with principals and other teachers. I have also sat and listened to my children's friends and themselves and know what they like and dislike in school. So I think I can bring that to the board as a voice for our students, knowing what they go through on a daily basis. Excuse me. I also want to know, excuse me, I'm sorry. I also want to work alongside the other board members and make sure that we are all on the same front, that there's no division, and also work closely with our superintendent. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We will move on to question number 2, and we will start with Mr. Sergio Coronado. Question 2, what are your 3 overall education priorities that in a perfect world you would accomplish during your time in office? How will you go about achieving them? And why are these important to you?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Well, I think number 1, I think that what we need to do is focus by state mandate, we got to focus on student outcomes. But in a perfect world, I would do without this high stakes testing and focus really on making sure that each one of our students graduates with a associate's degree, with some kind of training, a certification in some kind of career. I want to expand our career technology department. I want to make sure that we have a standalone building, so a facility where we can train individuals to get their certifications. Additionally, we want to focus on the rounded student, and that would be number 3. We want to make sure that kids are prepared for higher education, but at the same time, we should be giving them higher education. And so I was very instrumental back in the board when the early college high school was started. And we were the first small district in the state of Texas to have one. We went through some trying times to get it, but look at what it's blossomed into. We have a blue ribbon school. We've had up to over 90% and sometimes 96% of our students graduating from the Ellery College High School with a associate's degree. Some of them already becoming juniors before they even get their high school diploma. We've done a lot in the time that Canutillo has been a district, but over the last, I would say 15 years, Canutillo has really developed into a very respected educational institution. And so my focus is to continue with making sure that our students do get some credit in higher education. We
Thank
need
you,
to also focus
Mr.
on having
Coronado.
them get their certifications, and obviously we want to educate the entire child and student. Thank you.
Thank you. Next for the question, and it is back on the screen, is Mr. L. Flores.
The three priorities would be the quality of education, preparing the students for the future, and the quality of the school facilities. First and foremost, if you don't have quality school facilities, you're going to struggle with the education piece, because the learning starts in the classroom. And unfortunately, during these times, it's starting with technology. And the number one priority has to be the technology that we have for the school district. Are we prepared for the future? And that's where we have to learn and set the standards for the administrators to make sure that they are providing everything they need for the students. Now, when I talk about preparing for the future is, it was a time where everybody was preparing for college. Now we have to prepare with technical programs, the career technology education, ag programs, things like that. We really have to focus on those and making sure that these students have the opportunities to prepare themselves for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Flores.
Thank you.
Mr. Raymond Medlock.
I agree with Mr. Flores. I think quality education is most important. I think I also really support the special needs children. And I think there's a lot of programs that we could implement for special needs children. I know that my daughter works with special needs children, and it takes a special person to do that. And I really commend her with that. I also think that for children that can't or don't want to maybe attend college right away, work with them with technical skills. And I think that supporting technical skills would be a good life lesson to teach them to go out and be prepared for the world. Like Mrs. Trout said, she has a daughter in the military, and maybe that works for some people, and for some people it doesn't. But the children need to be at their own level, and that's what I'm going to support. Whatever they need is what I want to do.
Thank you. Ms. Patsy Mendoza.
I have to agree with my fellow candidates regarding a perfect world and what my three goals would be. My first goal would be to enhance the career opportunities, the career and technology opportunities for our students. I think that there's a lot of students that, yes, should go to college, but aren't going to. And if we could enhance those kinds of programs, including FFA, welding, technology, I think it would go a long way for our school district and our students. The other thing that I think we should look at is our buildings. Some of our buildings are very old, and I agree with Mr. Flores. Nobody likes to say the nasty word of school bond, but I figure in a couple of years, we are going to have to look at that again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you for that question. I actually have several goals that you could actually go to my website, which is armandorodriguez.org, and you could click on priorities. But I wanted to look at some short-term priorities. The early college high school, which was one of mine and Mr. Coronado's projects, and thanks to Dr. Dow and others that helped really bring that together and now had made it into what it is today as a blue ribbon school. But I think the most important thing is to make sure that we infuse that model, the early college high school model, into the high school and provide more dual credit coursework. Because we know that if kids have 12 to 15 hours of dual credit coursework, more than likely they're going to attain either an associate's or bachelor's degree. And I think that's critical. So that's one of my goals. And during this current pandemic, we have to make sure that we take a balanced approach in doing what's right in the safety and health of all our kids, but at the same time, being able to, my main concern is a COVID slide, as well as the gap that might be coming in, and we need to make sure we address that will have an effect on our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Ms. Trout.
Thank you very much. Of course, of my priorities is student mental health and students with disabilities. One of my priorities definitely is to keep supporting students' mental health and students with disabilities. I remember when I joined in this board, I started to work with the mental disabilities in department, and I was able to bring the program Ending the Silence to avoid the kids commit suicide. So to bring mental health awareness, so the kids, they know a little bit about that, so distress the kids. So also I'm pointing, and I would like to see if it's possible to bring equine therapy for all the kids that are suffering stress, kids with disabilities, and also intellectual disabilities. This is a fabulous program that I would like to work in short, long term, but of course I would like always to keep in that. Certifications in high school, definitely the kids are going to need to be very well prepared to front this business world. So it's always for them to bring a good certification. It is a responsibility, early college, and of course, elementary school. Support them. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Trout. Well, no, not last. Ms. Whitley, you're next.
Thank you. I also agree with my fellow candidates, but in a perfect world, I would love to make sure that all of our high school students graduate with the high school diploma minimum. And then I also would love to see them continue on and get their associate's degree. As you know, my daughter received her along with her high school diploma, and that has set her ahead of most of her peers. I would also like to make sure that our teachers continue to get the training that they need, because if you have a happy teacher, you have a happy student. And lastly, the special needs. This is close to my heart. I have two siblings with special needs, and the school district that they attended, they were able to receive a trait and take that onto the real world. My sister works at Providence Hospital and is able to make an income, whereas normally she wouldn't be able to do so in a normal environment. And I also want to make sure that, you know, none of our students are left behind. But thank you.
Great, thank you. And lastly, for question number 2, Ms. Annette Brigham.
Yes, thank you. My 3 educational goals would be that all kids graduate. I think quite a few of you had said that. And they graduate with the grit and determination to succeed in life. Career education is definitely another one that I need. We need to offer more pathways, and we need to offer so that kids can have a stepping stone after high school and after work to go get a 4-year degree. Also, 2, kids need to know how to adapt to life. And that's why we need to address their social and emotional needs, that they're working and secure adults. And the last thing is to make sure we all offer alternative avenues for all kids to graduate. Not everybody comes from our own background. Some kids are their own emancipated minors. Some don't have parents. Some are being raised by grandparents. And the traditional model might not always be the best. So I think we need to be able to offer every kid an opportunity to get a diploma and make sure that they can be successful. And that would be my last priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brigham. Thank you, everyone. Let's now move to question number 3, and we will start with Mr. Al Flores. Question 3. During school board meetings, poor etiquette can be seen among some board members by making rude comments or underhand comments at one another. How can you guarantee, or how do you approach other members to show decorum among your colleagues, regardless of different opinions?
You know, that's one of the reasons why I'm running for school board. You know, when I see these school board meetings for the past 4, 5, 6 years and see this behavior from the board members, we have to be examples for the students, staff, and we're representing the taxpayers of the district. So we have to maintain professional decorum at all times in the public forum, whether it comes to the board meetings, communication with the taxpayers. You have to realize that you're representing Canutillo ISD as a whole. And so what I hope to bring to this board is my leadership abilities that I've earned over the years as being working in the facilities, working for New Mexico State, working for Texas Tech, working for Anthony ISD, and bring that experience of working with team and teamwork to this board to alleviate these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Mr. Raymond Medlock.
So with as many people that I work with, one of the things I have to learn how to do is I need to learn how to deal with people at their level. Different people have different levels of stress level, of anger, of education, of knowledge, and I have to deal with them at their level. And I've become very proficient at this. And I have employees that have special needs. So I work with them at their level and not try to rise above it. When I go into a board meeting, my character is going to be on display. I do not want my character to be tarnished. I want to be forthcoming. I want to be upright, transparent. And as I tell my employees, you're only going to get 3 answers out of me. I know the answer and I'm not able to tell you. I know the answer and here it is. And guys, I honestly don't know it. So what you get out of me is complete honesty.
Thank you. Ms. Mendoza.
Yes, we have had problems in this area. And I think it's partly due that the board members are so passionate about the topic being discussed or that kind of thing. It takes a very strong board president to be able to take control of the meeting. And I think that undergoing board training for ethics and respect will go a long way. I know many of the board members, and I feel like I could roll up my sleeves, go in there and start working with each and every one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, so I think the most important thing is having a good discussion and being able to respect different people's opinions. I think one of my biggest frustrations and what I've seen in the past is I've seen board members cussing. Actually, that one of the candidates called an SOB, and I think that was very unprofessional. And the other is walking out of boardrooms. I think many in the community need to make sure that they're vigilant of what's going on. And I believe in providing a stable and common sense governance. And one of the main things that I worked on as a board member early on was to make sure that we looked at audio taping, because they didn't want to videotape then. And now even we still got pushback, but now we're videotaping them and making sure that's accessible to the community, because I think there needs to be a balanced approach in regards to that. And so I believe that there needs to be a lot of healing, whoever wins after this election. There needs to be a lot of healing so that we can move the district forward.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Ms. Blanca Trout.
Thank you. I just want to let you know that it's kind of hard to work under stress. We need to take a lot of very hard and difficult decisions sometimes. But it's okay to be agree and disagree. It's okay. But what is not okay to offend one another or to use one another to get what do they want. Yeah, I understand that we need to behave and follow our ethics, because of course that we owe ourselves to our community members, to our students. So we need to lead with example. We have to learn to come to a consensus for the good of our students, for the good of our staff and the community. So we need to set up an example. Like I said, it's not always so easy to be sitting over there and take very hard decisions overall when everything is to the boil point. But we need to learn to do that and follow our ethics and put them in practice. And thank you very much all to my colleagues, and I'll promise to do the best as I can.
Thank you. Ms. Whitley.
Oh, she's on mute.
Are you on mute? Ms. Whitley, you're muted.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry.
That's
Well,
okay.
this is one of the reasons I'm running. It's been quite difficult to watch some of these board meetings lately. If I'm elected, one of the reasons I would like to do this is I have dealt with many different personalities being a PTO president, and I've had to deal with conflict on many different issues and be able to sit back and look at everybody's point of view. But at the end of the day, it comes down to following the rules and guidelines that you are put and elected to attain and uphold. The board should be able to communicate on an adult level. They should be able to put aside any personal issues that they might have with one another. We were elected by our community to represent this district. And now that it's on video, everybody is watching. So we need to learn how to uphold ourselves in such a manner and not have the district look down upon for the board members' behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brigham.
Yes, I do think it's been challenging with some board members and at some board meetings. But I do think what we need to do, and I'm going to have to share what Ms. Mendoza says, is that we have a bunch of passionate people that are at the board. And I don't think anyone that is a board member is a wallflower. We're all leaders. And I think as leaders, we need to take a breath and look and try to understand where they're coming from. And there's going to be times when we don't understand where they're coming from. And that's when we just have to take a breath. And as Ms. Trout said, we have to just try to form a consensus if we can. But I do think it's a very valid point that we need to do better. And I think with this community, it has been growing. And I think we have so many different people coming into the community. And so I think it gives us a good opportunity to do things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brigham. And lastly, for question 3 is Mr. Sergio Coronado.
All right, thank you for the question. You know what, in terms of behavior on the board as a board member, if you're a board member, you're an elected official. And you first have to start in terms of being able to get along with everybody. It all starts with you. You individually must adhere and be honest with yourself, with your board members, about your dealings while you're on the board, and not just during the board meeting. Even when you're out in the community, you're representing the entire community on the board. And so I think it's critical. And so, yes, it starts with each individual, but we also need to go through training because we need to make sure that, that we abide by everybody else's opinions. At the same time, it doesn't mean that we all should be agreeable. I don't like to see 7-0 votes as much as I don't like to see 4-3 votes all the time. It's healthy to disagree and vote differently, but you can't take these things personal, and you got to move on. And once the decisions are made, every board member, whether you're on the losing side or not, you need to support that decision because it's, the board rules by majority decision. And you have to, people have to learn how to accept that and not to take things personal. And one of the things that, that this board has to undergo is Lone Star governance training, which we're required to do under the current TEA agreement that we have with them. And it's been difficult to get a couple of board members to agree to that. But I forget about the issue of whether we should all do it. I think every single board member in the state who's elected should go through the Lone Star governance training. It's a 2-day training, 16 hours, very well worth for everybody to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. And now we're going to move to question 4. And just also for time, and I know you're all trying, we'll just remind you to try to stay to as close to a minute as possible. And this will start with Mr. Raymond Medlock. And question 4 is, how will you try to ensure that the tax dollars being collected from our local tax base are used in the most efficient manner to provide the best resources and opportunity for our students?
Thank you. Well, this whole thing is about the students. The teachers are there for the students. The staff is there for the students. The lunchroom staff is there for the students. So the whole thing is about the students. I deal with a large budget every year, and I'm in the middle of a project right now that is hundreds of millions of dollars. And we have to be diligent about how we spend our money. We have to be diligent to make sure that the money is applied directly and appropriately. And it's just one of those things that reflects on your character. So people I work with know that my character is very strong and that I'm honest about whatever I do. If I wasn't, I can guarantee my parents would get up out of the grave and come slap me upside the head. So I will make every attempt and every effort, and you have my pledge, to make sure that I address financial situations in the most appropriate manner possible.
Thank you. Ms. Mendoza.
Ms. Rodriguez, would you repeat the question?
Sure, of course. How will you try to ensure that the tax dollars being collected from our local tax base are used in the most efficient manner to provide the best resources and opportunities for our students?
Yes, ma'am. This is one of the main priorities of the school board. They adopt the budget. They're very well aware of each line item and where the money is going. And that comes through many endless nights working with administration, working with the finance department, and it involves trust. And as it used to be when I was on the school board, they would bring what we called a warrant list every month to approve. I don't know if they still do that, but we were able to see, where and who and what, how the money was spent. Useful to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
This is one of the most important roles as a board member, to make sure that the tax dollars are being spent. And one of the most important things is looking at where those goals are, right? In regards to, if you're looking at equity, if you're looking at facilities, if you're looking at human capital, which is our teacher salary, as well as our employees, we have to make sure that we're trying to do what's best when it comes to that. And Canutillo has been a leader in that realm. As a matter of fact, one of the district highlights that we've received from the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government's Finance Officers Association of the United States. And the other issue here is that we've also gotten an upgraded rating as an AA3 from Moody's Investors Services, which is amongst the highest in the region in regards to how we're handling our money. The last thing that I would say is one of the biggest things that I've supported and will continue to support is an internal audit function, which allows that to be checked.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Ms. Whitley. Ms. Whitley, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I have invested interest in this community as I have 2 students currently enrolled. And so I would want to make sure that our tax dollars are being spent wisely to make sure that we get the most out of every penny that we put out to our community. I've worked alongside several principals and I know what the needs are. As a PTO president, I see the needs that aren't sometimes met. So I would like to make sure that we are listening to our community and making sure that we are allocating the taxes and the money properly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brigham.
Yes, I think we can do a better job in this. We need to respect the tax dollars that we get from the community because most of them are coming from property. A lot of them come from property taxes, and that's what people work so hard for. I think we need to follow the procedures and the processing regulations that are set up. I think we need to do it transparently and not under the cloak of who knows who, but it's just basically is the best bang for the buck. I do think we have a lot of expertise on the board that we could pool the resources as far as brain power, I mean, so that we could get the best bang for our buck every single time. And I think that's important. And bottom line is we need to get resources to schools. Our schools have not gotten enough increase for supplies, except of course with this pandemic, which is a totally different animal. That's what we need to do is get resources to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coronado.
Yes. Most of our budget gets eaten up by salaries every year. It's 80% gets spent automatically on salaries. So there's a little percentage that we need to focus every year on making sure that the students, that we focus on students. Within that realm, this last year, we've had a lot of issues with respect to making sure that every one of our students has that access to education, to training, and one of the things that I advocated early on was to make sure that we got every student in the district, that we got them the opportunity to be able to do remote learning. And so that's why, I advocated that we go forward with our tax bonds that we went out for, maintenance tax notes, so that we could get every single student in the district, and the connectivity. I think we were only the second district in the state to be able to do that. We've been able to do that, and we're going to get reimbursed probably about half of that funding back. But apart from that, we also need to learn how to focus on what are, what's important for our students. Like we focused over the several years in terms of making sure that our teachers, and we pay them bonuses for a teacher, and I'm going to say bonuses, but we pay them stipends for our teachers above their salaries, for those teachers that have certifications and are able to teach dual credit and as well as math, and we focus on that. And we can see that when we focus on that, it does yield results. We're only the only district in this region that has had state championships in math in an academic subject in this whole region. Twice we've done that. So. We need to,
I'm
like I
sorry.
said, we need to focus on that for our students.
Thank you. And last for question 4 is Mr. Flores.
So taxes, and County ISD has one of the highest tax rates in the area. And so that being said, we really have to be diligent to the taxpayers and respect that we are collecting all these taxes from the taxpayers. How do you hold them accountable? How do you budget? You budget and you budget, and you hold the people that are in charge of the budgets accountable for the money. One of the things you look at the district improvement plans, campus improvement plans, facility improvement plans, and assure that you're spending effectively in those areas so that that you're providing the atmospheres, not only with the teachers, with the support staff, with the special education staff, and you support them with the facilities, and you provide them the proper environment to foster learning. I mean, we have to be effective on spending on deferred maintenance. We have to look at the education to administration ratios. 4 or 5 years ago, County ISD had the highest ratio in the area of admin to the students, what they're spending on students. That has to be the other way around. We got to spend more on the students, with the teachers, with the support staff.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Thank you, everyone.
I think you skipped me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Trout. I apologize for that.
That's okay. That's okay. Everyone has the opportunity to speak. I don't care 1 second, third. Anyways, I would like to get my input in this. Definitely, we are responsible for taxpayers' money. The community entrusts us for that, to take care, to safeguard this taxpayers' money, people who work so hard in order for them to pay their taxes. We are responsible for that. So in the budget allocation season, it is very important that we need to be fair and to allocate the best as we can for those departments who really need it. Of course, we need to cover all the needs for every department, or teachers, special education, or students. So of course, we need to do it proportionally, this one. So the students is always gotta be the first one who benefit from our work, from our allocation, and from our funds. So thank you very much. And I think that's all that I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Trout.
Yes, ma'am.
And actually, that's a great segue for our next question.
Okay.
It's when we will start with Ms. Mendoza for question 5. And again, just a reminder, once you hear the buzzer, if we could wrap up within 10 seconds. Question 5, what plan would you recommend to upgrade campuses who have aging facilities and equipment to ensure equity and equality across all campuses while considering financial constraints? And Ms. Mendoza.
That is a very good question. We used to have a facilities improvement plan, and it would outline what facilities. We have pretty old facilities that need upgrading, and it would put a dollar value to it, and we would project when we were going to do this. I don't know if they still do that, but when I was on the board, that was a very useful tool, in that we knew that we had to replace, for example, playground equipment at Jose Damian. And we knew that we were going to do it during the summer of 2021. It was that specific. And so I was under the impression that I'm sure that there's very smart people on the school board, and I compliment them. And I feel like I'm sure they've got it well underhand.
Great, thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, so we've had 2 facilities assessment studies, and in the past facilities assessment study, we knew we had a huge capacity in some of our campuses, especially of our elementary school. We didn't really take action in regards to that. We just going through another process where we have another facilities assessment study, and they provided the district information, I believe last month or the previous month. And they've been meeting with the district staff. So what I would do is allow those professionals that know what they're doing. We have a great facilities and transportation director. I believe it's a different title now. But Mr. Vasquez has done an excellent job and working with any other professionals and develop, looking at our facilities and then developing a plan to address those issues. I believe that's the best approach, and that's what I would recommend. Let the experts do their job and then bring that for us to ask questions.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Rodriguez. And Ms. Trout, you are next.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, I understand that we have a very good facilities master plan. So who could provide us more information professionally? They went, I know that every campus, so they could recommend us which are the more needs for our campuses. So what are the needs for students and how can we allocate our funds? Of course, that we need to be vigilant in our campuses to check every campuses whenever it's allowed to do so. So we could see the needs of our students, how them are learning, in which atmosphere, what do they need, how the classrooms are, and are those appropriate to the environment do they need, or do we need to build another building, like is the case for Norwest Early College and could be for another campuses as well. Transportation, we need to be sure that all the kids are transported safely and securely. And that's what we got. I think every year we allocate 2 more school buses. So we're very good in that. Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. And of course, the school district facilities. I would like to see this probably could be expanded because I know them are working very crowded. So we could do the best as we can. And it's my goal to try to fulfill those needs with my good point and bound. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trout. Ms. Whitley, I'll repeat the question. What plan would you recommend to upgrade campuses who have aging facilities and equipment to ensure equity and equality across all campuses while considering financial constraints?
Okay, well, like said earlier, there was a facilities assessment study done a while back, and it was extensively done. I've looked over it myself. So we kind of have a starting point. But I think as board members, we need to walk those actual halls. We need to look for ourselves to see what needs to be done and put it in priority. Because as a parent who's walked several of these schools' hallways, some need more attention than others. And some schools are equal so that all of our students
Can anyone hear her? Is it just bad reception on my end?
Can you hear
No, we
me?
lost her.
I couldn't hear her.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you. Miss Whitley?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, you're cutting off.
Can you hear me now?
I think we lost her. Okay, how about we move to Miss Brigham and we'll come back to Miss Whitley.
Yes, we did do a master facility plan just recently. And one thing with this board, one thing I do feel is that they always try to get equity among the campuses. And I think we need to do that. And we need to do it a step at a time to make sure that all the needs are met. We also, as a board, needs to listen to the administration. If they want to do something, they want to put a building someplace, we need to listen to them. And as a board, it is not our job to usurp the admin's recommendation. And lastly, I think if we listen to the educators and the people at the buildings and Mr. Vasquez, I think we can do this a step at a time. Like Patsy said, when you look at the budget, we know how much money we have and we take it a step at a time. And one thing the board, you can say what you ever want about the board, but they always look at trying to meet the needs of kids. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you, Ms. Brigham. Ms. Whitley, would you like to finish what you were saying?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just going to start over because I don't know where you lost me.
Go ahead.
But I was saying that based on the facilities assessment plan that was study that was done, we should go off of that. And as board members, we should be walking these halls, because as a parent, I know I've walked these halls many, many hours and seen issues that need to be addressed. We also need to listen to our principals. They're in these buildings every day, and we need to make sure that we're listening to what they feel needs to be fixed or upgraded. And I think just making sure that our tax dollars are being spent wisely and not being spent on buildings that aren't being touched. We just need to make sure that everything is being equal across the board and that all of our schools are on the same level. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Coronado?
Yes, you know, actually, the board this past year, we went through the Lone Star governance training, and we've actually set as a board, part of our goals with respect to the, administration of funds to each of the campuses, that we do it in a manner that is equitable, considering what is in each campus and what the classification of the programs, the type of students that are in there. So we have that kind of a goal set already by the board. We now went through this facilities assessment. We've gotten a preliminary report right now, but we haven't gotten the final report yet. But through that, we can see that what we need to first focus on, and that's what we've asked administration from the last meeting, is to focus on things that are what I call the dire or immediate attention issues that we need to do. And there's some of those that we need to attend to right away. So I think we need to prioritize in terms of what's the dire immediate concerns, the short-term concerns, and taking into account equity of all the campuses, and then do our long-term planning on goals of what it is we want for the district in terms of the educational opportunities for our students. So we need to set that in mind, and this all goes with our overall goal planning with the district. And so this is the first start for now. What we're doing is this facility assessment, but we need to get that finalized, and then we need to get a committee of the community to help us make those decisions of what we need to do immediately, short term, and then our wants, our needs, and the dreams that we have for the district. So
Thank you, Mr. Coronado. Thank you for that. Mr. Flores?
This is a subject near and dear to my heart because this is where I work in. This is the environment I work in. First and foremost, you got to plan. You have to plan. For the 3 different districts that I work for and schools that I work for, I have to put together a 3-year plan of how we're going to provide maintenance, deferred maintenance, what the costs are involved, all that together, and put that together. If we go back and look at the 2011 bond, a lot of the projects on that bond were deferred maintenance. You cannot move ahead if you're spending these millions of dollars on deferred maintenance and energy improvements where we have other sources to get the funding to cover those. We have to be transparent. Put this plan out for the community. I was a participant of the CBAC committee for 3-4 years and reviewing these bond projects, but it was mute because we didn't have the ears of the board at the time to listen to our recommendations. And you really have to listen to the administrators. They know what's best for their campuses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. And last for question number 5 is Mr. Medlock.
I think what Mr. Rodriguez said, your facilities assessment study is very vital. And I think that need to be decided on by a priority issue. If it's a health issue, then that goes to the top of the list. Is it a want or is it a need? Then if it's a want, then we put it at the bottom. But we also have to be in balance with what we're spending. And if we can save money, then we can. Talk to your subject matter experts. See what they need, see what they think they need, and then take their advice and take their trust, move forward on it. But what I haven't heard is talk to the students. The students are going to give you, they want a gold castle, but there may be some of them that say, if we had more comfortable desks. So talk to your students, see what their opinion is, because after all, we're here for them.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Medlock. I didn't skip anyone this time, did I?
No, I don't think so.
Great. Question 6, and this one we will start with Mr. Rodriguez. Question 6, we had a local threshold provided by our local health authority of COVID-19 positivity rate to determine when students will return to in-person instruction, and this threshold was met. The current situation is that positivity rate now exceeds this threshold. Do you think it is safe to continue in-person instruction? What would be your recommended course of action?
Well, I don't feel that it is safe to return to in-person instruction, and I didn't feel previously safe. But I do want to take a balanced approach in regards to the current situation. We allowed district administration with district staff to make those decisions based on the information that was provided by the the county health authority, and allow those decisions. We allowed the superintendent and district staff for a waiver to continue till October 1st, and those thresholds were not met. I would have preferred to gone with the World Health Organization threshold, but those decisions were made based with our local health officials. The most, I guess, the thing that concerns me, of course, is the spread of this virus. But the other thing that concerns me is the loss of educational attainment and the gap that's actually happening as we speak. And so I want to try to balance that approach.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Rodriguez. Ms. Trout.
During the COVID pandemic, 19, at the beginning, I thought it was very good for the kids, for the social emotional situation. But now, of course, knowing and guiding by the health department authority, we need to respect. We are guiding under that, and we need to allow them to let us know how the cases are. We don't want to put our staff, our teachers, and our students in jeopardy, because our first mission here is the safety of our students, right? The safe and safety of our students. So of course, I think our kids, them are doing well in computers and learning and remote learning, and they have the choice if they would like to come back face-to-face. This is an optional. They let them know they already sent the applications that they would like to come back. But of course, my main concern is the safety and security of the kids. And of course, we need to rule by the health department. If the health department authority let us know it's okay, it's a good time for the students to come back face-to-face, we're going to do it. But if not, I'm going to respect what the health department is letting us do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Trout. Ms. Whitley.
Yes. Well, first off, I think the district's done a very good job of handling the COVID pandemic right now. I think that we do need to listen to or sure that we are doing what they recommend. I want the
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and come back to her due to time. I know we're late or we're a little behind schedule. So Ms. Brigham, can I move to you?
Yes, yes. With the COVID positivity rate, I do agree with Mr. Rodriguez. I would have liked to have gone with the WHO, but we went with local, which WHO was at 5% and the local was at, I think, 7.32. We do have to take a balanced approach, and we have to allow, and the thing is, I do think maybe the only thing that we didn't do well enough is to give community input as far as with going back to school. But we have to worry about, as Mr. Rodriguez said, the COVID slide, which means academically the kids are losing. I mean, online is okay, but it is not a good enough education. And that's going to take more resources. I think, but I also think we need to be equitable. If the teachers and kids are coming back to school, we need everybody back to school. The cafeteria workers have been working. The bus drivers have been working. I think we need to see more people at central office working. I think we need to do this as a unified approach, and we need to practice safety.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Coronado.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is really a tough issue that that we faced. Obviously, the board voted, and it was a preference of the board that we not start till actually in October, back to let the families and the students decide whether they wanted to come back in person or not. I would have liked to have seen that extended, but we went with the local health authorities. You know what some other districts in the states have done is they've hired their own health officials to guide them with this process. And we might think about doing that here in the near future, either as a region or in conjunction with other districts, if we feel that, you know, our local health authority is, you know, is not on the same game plan that we think they should be. Um, Having said that, we all know that students, you know, learn better, and their social emotional development is better when they become in person, and they come and get their training, their education in person. But we really have to, like I said, weigh that with the safety of the students and the staff, administration, everybody concerned, the bus drivers, all the our healthcare workers, everybody concerned. We really have to, you know, weigh that. And I really think that we need to, you know, that this decision, when all else is the same, we need to err on the side of keeping everybody safe. And I think the district and this administration has done a super job of getting prepared during this pandemic. We were ready to do that even at an earlier time than when we went back to in person. I just need to think we need to keep an eye on this, a real close eye, and make some tough decisions here coming up in the near future when we're going to have a
Thank you, Mr. Coronado.
winter. When the winter comes, that's going to be a little more difficult.
Thank you. Mr. Flores.
Transparency and communication. That's the key when you're dealing with any crisis. And this is a crisis because we don't fully understand the ramifications of the actions of the school district. Bringing kids back earlier, you add additional risk. If you don't bring them back, they're considering that you're hurting their education. You're keeping students at home. You're bringing the parents back to work. It's a difficult situation. Who takes care of the kids? Those are the type of things that we really have to consider. And it's a great responsibility to the district because you are dealing with the students' lives, the staff, educators, everybody. And so you really have to be in communication with everybody involved, be transparent of how you're all handling it. And first and foremost, and I mean, this should be a topic at every board meeting, the first topic to talk about, where are we? How are we doing? Are we being effective? Is what we've chosen to do, is this the best decision for the district? And work together as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Whitley, I haven't forgotten about you. I'll come back to you at the end of this question. Mr. Medlock.
So I believe that the children need to be in the classroom for their social and educational development. But if moving into a classroom puts any students and any teachers at risk, then we need to withdraw from that. I think that one thing that should be done is we need to consult an infectious disease physician locally. We also have to consider the WHO. We have to consider the health department here, the CDC. But I think if we go to our local infectious disease physicians and talk to them and get their input, I think they're going to have a more localized opinion on how to address this and how to keep everybody safe. But if meaning putting these children back in the school and the teachers back in the school is going to risk their health, it's not worth it.
Thank you. And Ms. Mendoza. You're muted, Ms. Mendoza. There you go.
Okay. This, as a grandparent, this is a very scary subject. And I think if you listen to all of the board members, candidates, they're all in consensus that of course, having a student at school is far beneficial than keeping him home and distant learning. but at whose expense? I think the district has done an outstanding job in balancing those parents that want their kids back at school and those parents that are just afraid and want to keep their kids at home. I think they've offered the different options, and I think my fellow candidates were all in agreement that we're headed the right way. This is very unknown territory for all of us, and we're all learning through this. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. And Ms. Whitley, we'll give you some time to answer this.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on my end.
That's okay,
But
go ahead.
what I was saying was that we need to definitely listen to the health advisors, local and national. Definitely our children perform better when they're in person, but due to the pandemic right now, I think our district's done a very good job of handling the options for the parents to either send them back face-to-face or send them home. As a parent, I've been very pleased with the degree of education that my children are receiving virtually because they are not in face-to-face. But I also do think that we need to make sure that our students are being protected and that our teachers are also safe, along with anyone else that comes into contact with a large group from our community. So I think we just need to continue keeping an eye on it and listening to what everybody would like and asking our parents for more input. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 7, and Ms. Trout, we will start with you. Recently, Canutillo ISD performed a facilities master plan to determine the condition of the district's facilities and plan for future needs. The recommendations offered by consultants at times may consist of hard decisions for school boards. How would you use this information to make decisions that are in the best interest of the district to include 1, land use or growth that are apolitical and promote taxpayer trust?
Definitely following the facilities master plan advisors, which they already provide us like not the final, but some findings that they have. Of course, that I would like to go first with priorities. We need to prioritize the needs for students. Which are the campus do they need more attention right now? Which are our emergencies, if it's called that way. We need to fulfill those needs. And I think for the land growth, of course, we're talking about to build something else. I think I would like to, in my personal opinion, to focus in what is our needs right now, which are emergencies, and of course have in the future, short or long term, to build something else, another building, and along with that, to have more taxes, have more revenue that allowed us to build another buildings for the schools or campuses that they need to be refurbished. So that's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Whitley.
Well, as the facilities master plan that was just performed, I think that we once again review it, look over it, and put our needs at the forefront. We need to make sure, like Ms. Trout said, that the schools that need the attention are getting the attention, and that our children are safe, and that they have what they need to operate properly in school. As far as the land use, we need to make sure that we aren't selling all of our land, that we hold on to some of it because our area is growing rather quickly and we're going to need another school eventually. We just need to make sure that our priorities are listed in a way that our money is best spent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And just a reminder, some of the question was to include land future use growth that are apolitical and promote taxpayer trust. Ms. Brigham.
Yes, I think we need to be deliberate and thoughtful when we look at these recommendations, especially from this facility. These people are coming from outside and they have wonderful resources, don't get me wrong, but we're Canutillo, we need to make the best for Canutillo. We have to make decisions and stick with them. We have to make decisions that we're not losing money. that if we're looking at land, that we need to make sure that we're not going to sell it later for a loss when we have needs that might need to be addressed during a facility master plan. So I think maybe more deliberate consideration. I heard some people say the word bond. We're not going to be able to get a bond unless we establish trust. And showing that we're watching the taxpayers' money, we're making sure that we're making thoughtful decisions before we purchase things, and that we don't do things that is just because to get even. And we're doing things to just say it's good for the kids and not just for some other reason. So I really think looking at the plan and what Ms. Trout said is right, prioritize needs, but also work with the trust of the community. Because in order to, we can't get everything without that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coronado.
Yes, as I stated before, we're about to get the final version of the plan here pretty shortly, but we've got a good idea of what our needs are. And I think, like I stated previously, we've instructed administration to, go back and prioritize these into, some that are their immediate needs that we need to really take a look at immediately. We also, are short term. And as far as being apolitical, I really don't understand the question. This goes without saying. We need to just focus on what the needs of the district are, make sure that is with having the students in mind, equitable to all the campuses. And in order to do that, once we would get this facilities master plan, is obviously we need to do the work on the priorities, and then we need to involve the community. We need to have a committee that we involve different members of the community come in and have them give their opinion on whether we are okay in the way we've structured the priorities and how we should go about, making sure that we address these needs either just immediately and also in the future, and that would be a bond issue. So I think that's what we need to do in order to get the taxpayer trust.
Great, thank you. Mr. Flores.
Part of this is the planning and moving ahead and understanding what the growth is. There was a plan, a study done about the growth rate in the community. And if you look to the east, the northeast by Trans Mountain, you have a bunch of communities going up that's part of the district. And I'm sure we built a school that handles anything east of Trans Mountain, but west of Trans Mountain is exploding and is growing. And how are we going to get property? We have to hold the developers accountable to provide property for the school districts for future expansion. And another issue that's near and dear to my heart is this ag program that was moved to the middle school when it was slated to be across from Garcia Elementary, the 25 acres there. It was moved against administration's recommendations, and we went from a 25-acre plot to a 3-acre plot, and now the district is trying to sell that property. And what are we going to do with that money? That's the big question. How you earn taxpayers' trust is the transparency of the actions of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Mr. Medlock.
I'm not familiar with the facility master plan, but I think it sounds like a good idea that this was put together. I think, though, that we need to look at that FMP, and we need to prioritize the repairs, make sure that the repairs are valid, and that we're just not spending money just to spend money. One of the things that I think would be huge would be an equestrian program for special needs kids and also for the FFA kids. That 25 acres which is behind me, that 25 acres, the kids could be self-sustainable in growing their own alfalfa to feed their animals, take care of their animals. They could also put on events for the public, especially with the special needs children, and draw the public in. And when you draw the public in, they will buy into it. They will see this. They will show the what you're trying to do, and you will have their support.
Thank you. Ms. Mendoza.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure that the board spent a great deal of money on this facilities master plan. And I'm sure that it outlined where the growth is coming. I'm not very familiar with the problem with the property near Garcia, but I think that once they have the facilities master plan and they work with administration and then add a committee of community members to make sure that we are headed the right direction, that we are building and meeting all of the students' growth areas. I agree with Mr. Flores, that area right up above the outlet mall is exploding. And we need to make sure that those children that live there are going to have a facility. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Rodriguez.
What a great question. I think there's a lot of history that needs to be explained here, but what I would do is allow the facilities master plan, those individuals involved, our administration, our staff, and the consultants, as well as our district facilities director, to make those recommendations and bring that to the board. But in regards to the history, what we had was a board member, Ms. Searles, that wanted to purchase the property behind for her own personal agenda. It had nothing to do with the overall projects. If you look at a facilities master plan, that could have been included in it if that was the direction, but yet we purchased it higher than the market value, so that way it wouldn't be developed. And we're in a tight position because of previous staff. Ms. Searles kicked out the school's attorney, as well as the superintendent then, Damon Murphy, which was trying to do her agenda to purchase that property. We've known she's been against development and does not want it in her backyard. And that's what we as board members should not be doing. And that's why I've called people out on that issue, because there's a lot of history and the factual information's there. So we need to make sure we allow the professionals to do their job and bring those recommendations. If we need to question those recommendations, we can, but they're the professionals and they should have those answers to those questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Just checking, everyone had a chance to answer question number 7, right?
I think so.
Okay, so we are on our last question. And here we go. We will start with Ms. Whitley on question number 8. How can we ensure that students are maintaining acceptable academic progress during this trying time? What are your plans for today and for tomorrow?
Well, again, as a parent, I think we need to make sure that the teachers and the principals are effectively communicating with our community and our parents. We need to make sure that every student has access to some sort of internet. They have working laptops. We were very blessed that the community was able to receive a laptop for every single student. We need to continue. The biggest thing we need to continue is the communication. Again, as a parent, that is probably one of the hardest things, is making sure that we can communicate with our teachers and our principals and keep our students' progress moving forward. And as far as today and tomorrow, I think given our pandemic, it's a day-to-day challenge. We continue to listen to our community and do the best that we can do. And once again, I'm very happy to be a part of this district because I feel that they've handled this pandemic very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitley. Ms. Brigham.
Oh, yes. I do feel that that kids will have experience in academic slide. I think Mr. Rodriguez said that also. And I think what we're doing is that we need to look at our resources. I am not as, I think we need to look at and reallocate more resources to the schools, because there is going to be an academic slide. And so we need to be able to put in those resources to get those kids to accelerate their instruction, that they're not mastering every grade level TEAG and objective. I heard the commissioner speak today, and he didn't give us a whole bunch of guidance, and I know the board knows that. So, but what we need to do, and I don't agree necessarily with that financial acuity, I think we need to take some of our financial goals and redirect them to addressing the academic slide during COVID, and we need to do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brigham. Mr. Coronado.
Yeah, you know, and that starts, and that's one of the reasons that we did this facilities master plan, because we want to involve the technology issue going forward, because that's actually going to be something that we, you know, going to have long term. Not only did we want to have to do this, that we wanted to do this, even some time back, we should have had this one-to-one in terms of laptops and computers for our kids. But that's part of the facilities assessment that we've been doing to involve our technology in the future for this kind of learning. And with that respect, I think we were ahead of the curve with respect of a lot of the other districts in the state. We jumped on the wagon right away to make sure that we had the hardware in terms of the computers and the laptops and the pads for our students, that they didn't go without, because that's an equity issue. Some people, you know, how can we make sure that all students are getting the educational opportunity when some of them can't even log on or don't have a computer. So those issues, I think we were ahead of the curve in doing that. And in terms of the connectivity, we did this long term, and so we've made a great investment. I think what we need to do now is make sure that we keep our eye on it. We need to do some surveys. Our teachers, God bless our teachers, they're in their difficult situation, so we need to support them as much as possible. This is a new environment. We need to really focus on that. It's going to take a lot more time and effort in everybody's concern here, because this isn't going to go away anytime soon. So we really need to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Coronado. Thank you. Mr. Flores.
Focus has to be to help and support the teachers in this time. My wife is staying at home. She's a teacher. She's doing her job, trying to do her job at the best of her ability. We got the kids at home. They're online learning. They're trying their best. And, you know, I see the struggles day to day. And, you know, we have to be able to support and give the training to these teachers. And because this is a brave new world that we're in right now. And we weren't prepared for this. I don't think anybody was prepared for this. We didn't have the technology in place. We didn't have the plans in place. Why? Because we didn't understand that this was going to go on for so long. Now that we're here, we really have to learn how to support and really understand the dynamics of this online learning. I have a kid at home doing college from home. I mean, he has to make the adjustments, and we all have to make the adjustments and understand what it takes to be successful in this environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Mr. Medlock.
So I think we need to determine the wants versus the needs and put the needs first.
Yeah.
And to do that, I think we go to our teachers, our counselors, our assistant principals, our principals, and we talk to them. We get their inputs and say, tell us where you're at, tell us what you need, what are you lacking? And we're here to support them. We're not here to be their bosses. We're here to support them. That's what we're about. And I can tell you that the IT director has done a fantastic job getting laptops and computers into children's hands. He is to be commended. I also think that one of the things we need to do, and Mr. Flores is right, this is a trying time. Nobody was ready for it. But what we need to do is we need to rise above it. We need to rise above it, and we need to exceed and come out on top rather than let this defeat us. So let's not take a defeatist attitude.
Great, thank you for that, Mr. Medlock. Patsy Mendoza, you're up next.
I feel like you just threw the ball to me, Lisa. I agree with everybody that has talked before me. we weren't prepared. No one was prepared. The world wasn't prepared for the pandemic. But I think, and so naturally, kids learning at home are going to have an academic slide. I mean, that just stands to reason. I agree that the administration and that the staff, the board, have done an amazing job in securing laptops and the necessary items needed for the students to go ahead and do distance learning. I'm sure a lot of our students didn't have Wi-Fi, yet the district was able to provide that they were able to learn online. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question once before Mr. Rodriguez, just for our community members. How can we ensure that students are maintaining acceptable academic progress during this trying time? What are your plans for today and for tomorrow?
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr.
I was
Rodriguez.
waiting. In regards to the good thing is we were able to purchase the one-on-one devices, which we had some board members did not approve of that. And we've included the access part. So we've been able to address some stuff and we still have a long way, but the most important thing right now is to support our staff, especially our teachers. Professional development is something important and support around this area because this is a new area that we're a new era that we're actually in. And then after this, what we need to do is make sure that we're going to support our students. I believe we're going to have to go back and look at how we could provide some intervention to especially our kids, our students that are most at need. And so there's stuff that we still will continue to do, but I have the confidence in our school district, our superintendent, and our administration, principals, and teachers to do that. And one thing that I'm going to do on my part is to make sure that I continue to advocate. I sit on boards at a state and federal level that help advocate for hopefully funding to allow for that support.
Great. And we will wrap this up with Ms. Trout.
We know that this COVID pandemic is nothing easy for any one of us, for the ones that we serve in the board or for the teachers and administration. But one thing that we could do as a board members is that we could be sure about how academic is going through our kids. My idea is to send an assessment and request to our teachers, to our parents, to our students, if in reality our kids them are learning through this remote learning. So we need to know if this pandemic, I know that is affecting a lot, but also we need to adjust to the needs and we need to adjust about the circumstances that we're going through. And this is the only thing that we could do through an assessment and to have a feedback from our community, from our students, from our teachers. How is this working? And also for all those kids that they don't have devices, that they don't have new computers, we need to provide them the tools. We need to provide what we promised with those $5 million and provide those computers for the kids that they don't have new computers. That's the only thing. Thank you.
Great. Well, that was our last question. I want to thank every candidate here for your time, for your knowledge, for your passion, and thank you for wanting to serve our district and our board. I'm excited that we were able to offer this to our community, and thank you for our community members that are out there watching us online. I hope that we were able to inform them, and now when they make it to the polls, they can make an educated, informed decision. Just October 13th to 30th is early voting. Dates, locations, and a lot more information is available on our website. So thank you again, candidates. Thank you, community members, and have a good night.
Thank you, Liza.
Together.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
You did a great job. Great.
Thank
Thank you, Liza.
Thank
Bye,
you. You're
everyone.
welcome.
Good night.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye, Mando. Bye, all. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good night, everyone.